Let's now join members of the My World Home team and alumni for an introduction to community organising, a way to make meaningful change in your community for people and the environment. Hear the stories from other students who organised community campaigns in their colleges, and in some cases won. They will introduce the key principles of community organising, including building power, meeting leaders and negotiating.
Thank you. So let me just share my screen and present. Cool. Well, hi everybody. So hopefully you're here to hear more about becoming an environmental leader yourselves and how to campaign in your community, specifically using community organising skills. My name's Hannah and I'm a campaign coach on the My Home project, which is a project that I'll explain a bit more detail in a second. But yeah, today is going to be about community organising skills that you can use in your schools and your colleges to organise your own campaigns about whatever environmental issue that you choose, and we'll explain that process as well a bit in a second. But before we get started, I wanted to also introduce you to Tanya and Akim, who are facilitating today as well. Go for it, guys, introduce yourselves. Yep.
Hi everybody, I'm Tanya. I did the My Home project about 2 years ago when I was doing my A-levels, and since then I'm still a member of Young Friends of the Earth and I really enjoy being involved with the organisation, and I'm now studying geography and Spanish at the University of Sussex.
Hi guys, my name is Akim Davis. I also did Friends of the Earth 2 years ago while I was in college, and I am still currently a part of the organisation. I now study BSc Economics at the University of Sheffield.
Brill. So before I hand over to these guys to talk about the different community campaigning skills that we squeezed into a 40-minute session today, I'll explain more about the My Home project, which they both did, and within that project we explore these different community organising skills for campaigning for the environment. So Akim and Tanya did the My Home project, which is a 1-year enrichment project that they took part of in college at FE colleges. And the project is delivered across the UK, or across England and Wales specifically, in 11 colleges. So we work in the East Midlands, Wales, Bristol and London. And here is a group of some of our students from, I think, a London training day that we delivered a couple of years ago. I think you could spot Tanya if you've really got a keen eye there. The project is partnered with SOS UK, which is Students Organising for Sustainability UK, and it was originally funded by Our Bright Future, or hosted by Our Bright Future and funded by the National Lottery Community Fund. And we've been going for 5 years. So this will be my 3rd year working on the project. Yeah, so welcome, and hopefully you find this session useful for starting your own campaigning in your college or school. Before we get started and talking about actual skills that are required, I just wanted to give an example of what students have done before. So as part of the project, students choose a campaign issue by listening to their community and finding out what their community wants to campaign about. And this is one of the key principles of community organising, is that it is organising around an issue that your community is foremostly invested in and they want to change. And so by doing a process of listening to your community, usually by doing a survey or maybe doing outreach in your community, students on the project find out in their college community and their local area what is the most viable thing to campaign about and what's going to get the most community support. So here are some pictures of what students did in their colleges last year. We've got students from London who were campaigning to reduce plastics in their college and also in their local community, and working with local businesses to reduce their single-use plastic procurement or purchasing. And then on the bottom right are some of the Nottingham College students that I worked with last year who are meeting the mayor there to also talk about recycling communications in the city and trying to make it clearer for all the residents of Nottingham how to recycle, make sure they can participate in that process properly. So this is what it could look like, but not necessarily what it will look like if you were to take this on board. So yeah, and to get us started then, Akeem is going to introduce different steps to social change.
Hi everyone again. So the first thing important to making a big impact in social change is to have a very stringent plan and to be sure of your idea, what you want to do, your beliefs, and how you can move forward. So here we have 5 steps to social change. 1, we have negotiate with decision makers, plan a strategic response, organize a diverse alliance, listen to community, and take action to get a reaction. These are not in order. So what we'd like you to do is to put them in the order that you feel is best fit. So I'll give you like 2 or 3 minutes to do that now. All right, so if you haven't done so yet, hopefully you have an idea of the steps that are necessary. So we'll go on to the next slide. So first is organize a diverse alliance. One of the most important things is to have a strong foundation, have a good base behind you, and have a good understanding of the people that will be supporting you throughout your movement. And this can be done using by building a diverse alliance. Second is to listen to community. Every community is different. Every community has different situational circumstances. Every community has different problems and issues that they face. So listening to your community can be very, very important to your cause, as every different community goes through different things. So tapping into what your community needs will be a great way to get support, especially from people in high positions. Third is to plan a strategic response. When planning a strategic response is extremely important, because when you are making your decisions and you are bringing them forward, your plan forward to people in higher positions, for example, your local council or the government, it's important that they understand clearly what you are going for, what your movement is about, and what you want to bring forward, the change that you want to bring forward. And this can save a lot of time and a lot of unnecessary communication, especially if your plan is very sought out. Fourth is to take action to get a reaction. So this is also an interesting step, because in college, what we did is we on like a festival day, a fair day, we had a petition. So we had loads of people, over like 100, sign this petition about our movement, and this actually is what gave our movement traction and gave us the ability to move on to our decision makers and to make them more willing to work with us, because they saw that the community was actually looking forward to this and wanted this. Finally is to negotiate with decision makers. This is obviously a very important step as well. And I believe that having a strategic response and taking action to get a reaction, letting them see that you have thought this out very properly, very well, and obviously going in with a clear mind and understanding that they want to work with you as much as you want to work with them in most circumstances, because change is most likely for the better. So you should also be open to the fact that there will most likely have to be some sort of compromise, and you have to be ready and look forward to that. So those are our 5 steps to social change. One of the most important things, though, which I won't be discussing today, so I will hand this off to Tanya.
Hi everybody. So now that Akeem has described the 5 steps in social change, the most important factor of social change is actually power. So do you think that power is a bad thing? Do you think that knowledge is power? And do you think that young people have the power to make change? If you want, you can drop an answer in your comment box, or you can rank from 0 to 5, of 0 being you strongly disagree with the statement and 5 being you strongly agree with the statement. So I'll give you guys like 30 seconds if anybody wants to answer in the comment section.
Are we doing it chronologically, Tanya, of the first one and then going down?
Okay, so do you think that power is a bad thing? Do you think that knowledge is power? And do you think that young people have the power to make change? So I can see that people may be a little bit hesitant to answer. Someone has answered. Young people have the power. Thank you very much for your contribution. I think an important thing to take away from this is that you should believe in yourself and you should believe in your own power, because there's no limit to what you can achieve. And there's a very, very good quote, and it is, "No one is you, and that is your power." But the dynamics of power are very interesting and very subjective. And with that being said, I'm going to hand over to Akeem, and he's going to explain to you guys the different types of power.
Hi guys, me again. So different forms of power. First we have dominant power. This is quite self-explanatory. So this is power coming from above. So for example, your local council, the government, the executive, anything really. It's just people that are put in power by us, well, in democratic states at least. And next is counterpower. Counterpower is the power from us. So the power from the bottom that can be used to overthrow power in the dominant power. So counterpower could be, for example, Friends of the Earth coming together to have a march about climate change or about plastic usage and stuff like that. That's counterpower. And in great numbers, counterpower can be very, very influential. The third one is relational power. So relational power is basically the power that we have through building networks and connections. So this can actually be very useful, because in any sense, rather than having to go to the dominant power or getting a lot of people to back you as in counterpower, relational power is more like who you know and how you can use this networking to bring change in your community. And it can actually get you around lots of corners and get you closer to your ideal change. Yeah. So next, I believe I'm passing it back to Tanya. Yeah.
So now that you've learned about the different types of power, I'm going to ask you, how do you build power with others? Does anybody have any suggestions as to how you would go about forming an alliance with somebody, or how you'd want to build a relationship with that person? I'll leave like 20-30 seconds if anybody wants to answer. Meet with them. Yep, that's a good suggestion. Get to know them. Yep, these are very good suggestions. Okay, so if no one else wants to drop it, then the most important thing is actually, bring food to the meeting. Lol. The most important thing is actually self-interest. So in community organising, we say that everybody acts under their own self-interest. This doesn't necessarily make them selfish. It just means that if you're going to form an alliance with somebody, you need to understand what they want out of that alliance, and that's how they're going to work with you. So for example, why do you think people have come to this session today? They've come here because they have their own motivations behind it. But because you don't know the people in this session, you wouldn't know their motivations. So if you wanted to form an alliance with them, then you could have a discussion with them, ask them about themselves, their interests, their own story, their journey, and then that would help you to build relational power with that person. So on the right-hand side, we have a stick figure, and there are some different metaphors. So for example, the hands, which ask the question, what do you do with your time? So if I was going to build a relationship with somebody, then I'd say, what do you do outside of your job or outside of your school that you're passionate about? So maybe people go to marches or they community campaign, they care about the environment, and that helps me to understand what they would want out of an alliance with them. And then the arms represent people and organisations that are important to you. So organisations that are important to me would be Friends of the Earth and Greenpeace and environmental organisations, and that will help people gain insight into myself and how they can form a relationship with me. So something that's very important is understanding people's stories of themselves. And we have some different categories that how you can help to understand somebody, if you'd like to drop that in. Thanks. So somebody's memories, their childhood, how they've grown up, that will influence how they make their decisions now. The people that you know, people in your life who've influenced you, places that are important to you, maybe they hold a special place in your heart, perhaps a turning point in your life. So for myself and Akeem, after we finished our My World, My Home programme, we actually went on an environmental festival called, well, we went to an environmental festival called Base Camp, which is run by Friends of the Earth. And it was a whole weekend. It was an amazing experience, and all of the food was vegan. And after leaving, we both decided that we were going to stop eating meat, and we became pescatarian. And for both of us, that was a turning point in our lives, because a specific memory and event, it made us kind of change our lifestyle and kind of change it to what we were passionate about, and because we wanted to make a change. And so you have your own journey, and I think it's important in community campaigning, community organising, that you understand where other people are coming from and their own experiences, so you can build relational power with them and you can understand their self-interests, and that will help you to form an alliance with that person.
Thank you, Tanya. So one of the most effective ways to build relational power, as Tanya was saying, is to have a one-to-one and to have these conversations and try and find out people's self-interests and values that Tanya was just speaking about. And so by having a one-to-one as part of your campaigning activities and doing community campaigning, your main aim is to build a public relationship with that person that you can then rely on throughout your campaign. So as Tanya and Akeem have said, building relational power is incredibly important, that you have that relationship you can return to and you work transitionally with that person. So you want to find out their self-interest, and this could be asking them various questions like, what do you do? What do you like doing? And like Tanya was saying, finding out what they do with their spare time. When did you start doing that? For example, finding out those memories and those turning points of like, what was it that made you commit to working with young people or engaging with plastic reduction in your community, and finding out what it was that's like made them take this action and commit to it going forward. And how did you get involved? And asking these questions, you can also then have other jumping points and realizing, oh, they got involved through a local litter picking group or a local youth group that are taking action for the climate that you don't know about, and you can then connect with that group in your community and make your map of your community more clearer and more indicative of what people are doing already in your community, and you can link up with them and make your relational power in your community and your alliance even stronger. And then through those conversations as well, you can find common issues that you might both want to work on. As Tanya said, Akeem and Tanya are both a pescatarian, and they are both interested in food sustainability, and that might come about through discussing this in a one-to-one with someone. You might both say, we're both vegan, or we both try to eat sustainably or locally, and from this you might want to choose a campaign specific issue that you want to work on. And also through a one-to-one, you can find out someone's energy for an issue, and maybe if they have some skills in an area as well that might be useful for a campaign. So by talking to someone, you can really tell, like, kind of see them light up if they're talking about something they're very passionate about, and be like, yes, I want this person on our team. We want to work with them. We want to have them in our campaign midst. And through having a one-to-one, you can often find that out quite quickly. So that would be one of the takeaways for today. If you're interested in trying to campaign in your community, in your school or in your college, is to try and put this into practice in a group of yourselves, perhaps with a teacher or with a group of friends, and try and organise these conversations, like find out people who are also interested in campaigning for the environment. So some final tips is to be actively listening when you are having these one-to-ones. So to take notes if you can as well, if they don't mind. So to try and just absorb the information and not to interject, to kind of have the questions be broad so people can be really honest and really open about what they're interested in. And yeah, check back as well, make sure that you haven't misinterpreted what people are saying. Make sure that you also haven't kind of projected some ideas upon that person. Make sure you really check what they've actually said to you before you then refer back to that meeting later and say, oh, they said that they like this, but it wasn't quite the thing that they said. So make sure you check back and say, sorry, can I just see that I got this right? And you said that you campaigned on for oceans protections this year. And they're like, yes, that's what I did say. You're like, great. Cool. So one final thing, and I think we've got ahead of time. Let me just check the time. Yeah, we've got loads of time. So a call to action, as I think for all of these workshops we are doing, we discussed as a little group of facilitators here that it would be great if you can use this opportunity to go into your communities, if that is with a group of fellow students in your school or college, to do an envisioning exercise, to think about the world that you want to see in your school and college. And this can be just 15 to 20 minutes, or it could be even longer. You can take time if you have time to think about what you want to see in the world. So this could be doing a drawing of the kind of world you want to see, a collage, a list, a mind map, whatever works for you, and trying to kind of start that listening process, that listening exercise of listening to community within your own group, of what is it that people care about, and what is it that people want to prioritize, and what do we want as well. Like Akeem was saying at the beginning, it's really important to have a clear aim of what you want before you can kind of go after it. So yeah, this is, I think, a key takeaway today. After this session, maybe if you're going off to lunch, maybe just doing 15-20 minutes of doing an envisioning exercise of what you want. Yeah, but that was, I think, it from us. So we've been told that you might not be interacting with us directly, but in case you do, if you have any questions or comments for myself, Tanya, or Akim, please drop them in the chat box and we'll be happy to answer them. So we've got a question, what does power mean? Youth does not have as much power than adults. Yeah, so I think if you want to, we can go back to what Kim was going through about power. So in community campaigning, we recognise there's different types of power. But yeah, that's really up for you to kind of think about whether or not you think young people have power to make change. I don't know, Tanya and Akeem, what would you say about where would you put yourselves on this like spectrum line opinion poll about young people having power? What were your experiences?
I feel a lot more now than before. Young people do have a lot more power and influence. I've seen a lot of rallies and marches where it's young people are the masses, young people are leading these movements. I don't remember the name, but there's this girl who was like doing like summits across the world, and she was about climate change, and she's probably younger than me. And yeah, there are various examples of how you can see young people in power. I guess it's a lot more with relational power as well, like the connections and the networking that you have. But I believe in mass numbers, young people do have power, because we will be the people taking on the mantle. So we have to step up. We have to step up.
Okay.
Yeah, I definitely agree with the game. Like, we are young people and we're the people who are going to be leading the next generation, and the climate crisis will affect us. So we need to show that we are knowledgeable about the climate crisis, we care about the climate crisis, and we want to make change. I think that sometimes older people can misunderstand young people, and they can think that we're not bothered about these kind of things, or we don't understand, we're too young. But we need to show them that we do have an understanding. And I think that a lot of young people are a lot more knowledgeable than the older generation, especially when it comes to the environment, because we've been raised in a different era. And yeah, I think it's just really important that you believe in your own power and you speak to your friends and your family about what you're passionate about, and you build a relational power with them, and all of you can work together as a community.
Thanks, guys. And we have another question. How do I encourage my friends and family to make lifestyle changes if they are hesitant? It's a bit, yeah, like adjacent to what we were discussing today. But do you guys have any suggestions of like following, maybe doing the project? How have you spoken to people about your experiences, your friends and family?
For me, with my parents and with my friends, I kind of just told them about what I was doing, what I was passionate about, the work I was doing. I kind of like said some statistics to them. And I also have gotten like my parents to watch documentaries. Like, I've gotten them to watch some David Attenborough documentaries. And I got my dad to watch this documentary called The Game Changers, because that is what actually like made me properly want to cut out all meat from my diet. And once I watched that, I was really like adamant that I wasn't going to eat meat, and I made my dad watch that, and I think that's kind of what led him to a bit of a turning point. He still does eat meat, but a lot less than he used to, and my mum now doesn't really eat meat either, and they're both quite passionate. They have like started growing their own little vegetable patches in their garden, and I definitely think that if it wasn't for me, they wouldn't have kind of made that change if I wasn't like telling them about my experience.
Did you have any advice, Akim, on getting your friends and family to do environmental changes?
Oh, well, I kind of relate to Tanya on her point, because my brother before was a pescatarian, and I became a pescatarian after. So both of our influences on our parents made them become more environmentally conscious. And yeah, I think it's relating with people, and a lot of people have various influences and passions, and if you can tap into them and relate to how it can affect the environment, then that's a great way. That's a great way to make them more conscious about their actions. As you said earlier, with one-to-ones and with talking with people in general, it's extracting that self-interest and understanding the person, and relating with them and helping them to, through that you can help them to see how you can better the environment for them or what they're passionate about.
Yeah, definitely. I think by actually talking to people and understanding that, yeah, like you said, their interests and values, you've got a much better place to move on conversations and yeah, have a real understanding of what they want and what their concerns are and how you can work together to take action on that. Another comment was what clear aim for a school? Well, if you were interested in this kind of method of campaigning, I would think, I don't know if you, Tanya and Akeem would say, but I think doing the community organising approach and listening to students was really interesting, and hearing what actually students want to campaign about themselves. Like, I don't know if you guys were like surprised or not surprised by the topics that you campaigned on. But from my experience working on the project, every year is different, even in exactly the same place. And so it seems like college and school, yes, kind of the discussions that are happening within students and staff seem to change every year. And it can be about trees one year, wanting to get more trees in the community, or it can be about minimizing plastics in the college one year. So I think, yeah, what about you guys? Did you find the aim was quite surprising that you campaigned on?
In my college, the year before us, they had tried to implement solar power, and our director had told us that we couldn't actually implement that because of like the way the roof was designed. And so from that, we kind of had to step down, and we kind of had to like go down a couple notches, because that's something we would have liked to pursue, but we couldn't. So instead, we just made our focus on recycling, which it seems quite simple, but we found out that in our college, college didn't recycle at all. Like all of the recycling got mixed up with all of the non-recyclables, and they all went to the same landfill site. So we were trying to make it seems like a small change, but for us that was quite a big change, because we wanted to actually make sure that our college was going to commit to recycling and actually do it properly.
Yeah, so for my social change Fitbit with Friends of the Earth, my home, we decided to create an allotment, to plant an allotment on the college property, to and with the vegetables and fruits that we would get from it, we would give to the cafeteria. So they would have fresh vegetables and fruits to make our meals and stuff like that. But yeah, before we actually went through that process, there was a lot of throwing out ideas and stuff like that. So I feel like as Hannah said, it can vary from year to year. So it's just one of the steps of social change is listen to the community. So listen to what the people, the people's ideas, and the most practical one that you guys can carry out. And again, just be aware that there will at some point have to be some sort of compromise. So yeah.
Cool. Yeah, if there's any more questions, we've got a few more minutes still, I think. Well, there's one about eco-anxiety and climate anxiety, and I would love to have that discussion with whoever's asked that question, because I think that's something really interesting. And yeah, I don't think we haven't prepared to discuss that today, so I don't want to like throw it to Tanya and Akeem just in case, I don't know, we don't have any informed thoughts on that. But I think it definitely is something to be aware of when introducing these topics and introducing them to your community, and thinking of how to discuss that. But I'd love to discuss that too as well more, because I think it's something that we have to think about when we're campaigning with our communities about this, about climate change and about environmental breakdown. Yeah, if there's no more questions, I think we'll say thank you, and yeah, thank you for watching. Hopefully you found it useful. I'll just click through to the last slide again with like the takeaway action. Yeah, so if you've got some time, yeah, we would recommend doing a quick activity, doing a visioning activity, and start having those conversations of like, what kind of world you want in your college, and best of luck with it. Yeah, thank you very much. And thank you very much, Tanya and Akeem.
Thank you. I hope you guys enjoyed our session.
Thank you for having us.
Bye.
Bye.